Amahle had been looking forward to her 28th birthday. In the small village of Mavula, birthdays weren't usually grand, but this one felt special. She wore a bright red dress, her favorite color. She had even braided her hair the night before and cooked Jabari's favorite stew. In her heart, she expected roses, maybe even a small gift, a note, a kiss. Instead, her husband handed her a brown envelope. She opened it with a smile, but that smile disappeared in seconds. Inside were divorce papers, signed, ready. Jabari stood there, grinning like he'd just done something brave. "You'll be fine," he said. "You're strong, right?" Amahle's hands trembled. The room was quiet, except for the sound of her heart breaking. Family and friends had come over thinking it was a celebration. Someone even lit candles. But the birthday turned into a funeral, not of a person, but of a marriage, a dream, a future she thought was certain. She wanted to cry. She wanted to scream, but she didn't. Instead, she stood up, took off the birthday sash someone had gifted her, and folded the divorce papers carefully. No tears, just silence. Deep inside, something stronger than sadness began to rise, a fire, a stubborn spark. If this was her ending, she decided, it would also be her beginning. That night, she didn't sleep. She made plans. She made promises to herself. Jabari thought he ended her story, but he had just started a new chapter, the one where she would rise, rebuild, and never look back. Amahle left Mavula with nothing but a suitcase, a small bag of money, and a heart that felt like it had been torn in two. Her marriage was over. Her home was gone. Everything she thought she would grow old with had been taken from her. She didn't have a plan, but she knew she couldn't stay where her pain lived. So she got on a bus and went to Lusaka, hoping the big city would give her a new start. The first few weeks were hard. Amahle slept on a thin mattress in a shared room and ate whatever she could afford, mostly bread and tea. She cried some nights, quietly, so no one would hear. But she didn't give up. She had learned how to make handmade crafts back in the village, beaded jewelry, woven baskets, small gifts. So one morning, she set up a tiny table near a busy bus station and started selling her work. People walked past her like she was invisible. Some even laughed. One woman said, "Why don't you get a real job?" But Amahle kept showing up, every day, in the sun, in the rain. She smiled at strangers and handed out her number written on scraps of paper. She believed, deep down, that things would turn around. And then, one afternoon, a tourist stopped by. She bought a necklace, took a photo with Amahle, and posted it on Instagram with the caption, "Meet Amahle. Her hands tell stories." The post went viral overnight. Orders started pouring in. People from different countries wanted her crafts. Her phone rang non-stop. She couldn't believe it. Within months, Amahle had a small shop, then a team. She hired other women who had been through pain like hers. She didn't just build a business. She built a safe place for healing. The woman who once stood heartbroken by the roadside was now being called the business queen of Lusaka. But Amahle didn't let the title change her. She still remembered the girl with the suitcase, the one who refused to give up, even when the world gave up on her. After the divorce, Jabari didn't just walk away. He took everything with him. The house they built together, gone. The car she used to drive to the market, gone. Even the small savings account that had her name on it, emptied. He made sure she was left with nothing but heartbreak and a few clothes in a bag. In his mind, she'd come crawling back. He thought she wouldn't survive without him. Amahle heard the rumors. People said Jabari had married someone new just weeks later, a younger woman from the city, flashy and loud. They posted pictures online, dancing, smiling, holding champagne glasses. Jabari looked like he was living his best life, while Amahle was starting over from zero. But what he didn't know was that she wasn't crawling. She was climbing. Every day, Amahle worked harder. Every night, she dreamed bigger. The pain didn't destroy her. It fueled her. With every bracelet she made, with every customer she served, she was building something stronger than a home. She was building herself. Jabari, on the other hand, didn't notice the shift. He was busy showing off his new wife and new life, thinking he had won. But behind those smiles, cracks were forming. The woman he married loved money more than loyalty. The parties got quieter, the bank account got smaller, and slowly, things began to fall apart. Meanwhile, Amahle was rising. Her name started appearing in newspapers. Her shop grew. She was invited to events, panels, interviews. People wanted to know the story of the woman who lost everything and created more than she ever had. One day, someone sent Jabari a video of Amahle giving a speech. She looked powerful, confident, dressed in gold, laughing in a way he hadn't seen in years. He watched in silence. This wasn't the woman he broke. This was the woman who became unbreakable. He took everything she had, but she didn't chase him. She built an empire instead. And now, he was the one left empty-handed, watching her shine from a distance. After building her small business and finding her strength again, Amahle still carried one heavy thing, her voice. For so long, she had stayed quiet about the pain Jabari caused her, about the shame she felt after the divorce, about how society looked at her like she had failed. One night, sitting alone with her laptop in East Kasani, she opened a blank page and started writing. The words poured out of her like a river that had been blocked for years. She didn't hold back. She wrote about the night Jabari gave her divorce papers on her birthday, about how he took everything and smiled, about crying in silence, selling crafts in the heat, and rebuilding herself from nothing. She called the blog Voice After the Storm, and she ended the first post with one line: "I'm not the only one. I know you're out there too." Within days, hundreds of women found the blog, then thousands. Comments started flooding in. "I thought I was alone. You just told my story. Thank you for speaking what I couldn't say." Amahle wrote every week, not as an expert, but as a survivor. She shared the ugly parts, the healing, the wins, and the setbacks. Women from across the country started writing to her, sharing their own stories. Some cried, some thanked her, some finally left toxic marriages because of her words. The blog wasn't just a blog anymore. It became a movement, a safe space for women who had been silenced, shamed, and made to feel small. People started inviting Amahle to speak at schools, churches, and women's groups. Her voice, once buried in heartbreak, was now lifting others out of it. And somewhere, in a quiet room, Jabari opened her blog. He scrolled through the words, his face still. One post stopped him cold. It was about a man who destroyed a woman, thinking she'd stay broken. She didn't name him, but every word screamed his name. Every sentence felt like a mirror. He read it in silence. The woman he left behind had found her voice, and now it was loud enough to shake the world. 2 years had passed since Amahle left everything behind. In that time, she had built not just a business, but a name people respected. Her blog had become a voice for women across the country. Her craft store had turned into a company. People started calling her an inspiration. Still, nothing could prepare her for what was about to happen in Mbale. She was invited as the keynote speaker at a national business summit, one of the biggest events in the region. Leaders, investors, journalists, and young entrepreneurs from all over were attending. As she stood backstage, waiting for her name to be called, she took a deep breath. She remembered the girl with the suitcase, the one who had nothing but pain and hope. Then, the host announced, "Please welcome our keynote speaker, Amahle Nkosana." She walked onto the stage, wearing a soft cream suit and gold earrings that sparkled under the lights. The room stood up in applause. Amahle smiled, steady and graceful, but then her eyes stopped. In the front row, just a few steps from the stage, sat Jabari. Their eyes met for half a second. He looked different now, a little older, quieter, not so proud. And in that moment, everything came full circle. This was the same man who once told her, "You're nothing without me." The same man who left her broken on her birthday, who thought she wouldn't survive on her own. But here she was, not just surviving, but standing on a national stage, celebrated and respected. Amahle began her speech. 2 years ago, I was told I wouldn't make it alone, that I was only valuable when standing beside someone else. Today, I'm here to say, your worth is never in someone's hand, it's in your own. The audience clapped. Some stood. Jabari didn't move. He just sat there, silent, watching the woman he once tried to break become a voice the whole room couldn't ignore. Destiny has a way of twisting paths, and this time, it twisted in Amahle's favor. A year ago, Amahle had spent her birthday in tears, holding divorce papers instead of flowers. She remembered every second of that day, the silence, the sting, the way her heart cracked open. But this birthday was different. This time she wasn't alone. She wasn't heartbroken. She was surrounded by love, laughter, and the sound of 300 girls singing her name. She had rented a big hall in Lusaka. It was decorated with pink and gold balloons, long tables filled with food, music playing in the background. But this party wasn't just for her. It was for the 300 underprivileged girls she had been sponsoring. Girls from shelters, broken homes, and forgotten corners of the city. Some of them had never even had a birthday cake before. That day, they all did. Amahle stood in the center of it all, wearing a soft red dress. Not because she was trying to look strong, but because she finally felt strong. When it was time to cut the cake, she didn't make a wish. She just closed her eyes for a moment and whispered, "Thank you," not to anyone in the room, but to the universe, for everything, even the pain. A reporter covering the event came up to her and asked gently, "What changed you?" Amahle looked around at the smiling faces of the girls, some wearing new dresses she had gifted them, some holding slices of cake like treasures. Then she smiled and said, "Pain changed me, but more than that, rejection. It was the gift I didn't want but needed." The reporter nodded, clearly moved. Amahle continued, "The moment someone told me I wasn't enough, I decided to become more than anyone expected. I lost a marriage, yes, but I found purpose, power, and a family made of girls just like me, once forgotten, now rising." That birthday wasn't just a celebration of another year. It was a full circle moment. The girl who once cried alone in a village now danced with 300 daughters of destiny and showed them that even broken beginnings can lead to beautiful lives. Jabari's new life didn't go as planned. The flashy woman he married after Amahle wasn't interested in love, only money. After a year, she left him, taking more than just his heart. His business, which once seemed strong, began to crumble. Clients disappeared, debts piled up, and soon he found himself broke and alone. 2 years later, on a rainy afternoon, Jabari stood outside a familiar door, Amahle's door. He was no longer the confident man who handed her divorce papers with a smile. Now he was hungry, tired, and sick from stress. His clothes were worn, his eyes sunken. He needed help. He knocked softly, hoping for a second chance, hoping she would remember the man he once was, or maybe pity the man he had become. The door opened slowly, and there she was, Amahle, strong, calm, and more beautiful than ever, but with a fire in her eyes that told a different story. Jabari looked at her, searching for a sign of forgiveness, an invitation back. But Amahle didn't say a word. She just looked at him, really looked, and then turned away. She didn't close the door harshly, but she didn't open it either. She didn't reach out or invite him inside. She walked away. Jabari stood there, alone in the rain, feeling the weight of everything he lost. The man who thought Amahle would come running back learned the hardest lesson. She wasn't the same broken woman anymore. She had rebuilt her life, her business, and her soul without him. Amahle didn't hate him. She just knew her worth now. She knew some doors are meant to stay closed, not because of anger, but because you have outgrown what once held you back. And that day, Jabari finally understood that some people don't return, they rise. Jabari couldn't stand seeing Amahle's success. The woman he once tried to break was now famous, respected, and loved by many. Angry and jealous, he decided to fight back in the worst way. He sued her for defamation. He claimed she was lying about him, trying to ruin his reputation. The court case became a public drama. Everyone wanted to know what would happen next. Amahle stayed calm. She knew the truth was on her side. Her lawyer prepared carefully, gathering proof not just of Amahle's success, but also of the pain Jabari had caused her. When the day in court arrived, the lawyer did something powerful. He read out loud every cruel message Jabari had ever sent Amahle, the insults, the threats, the lies, texts where he tried to control her, tear her down, and keep her silent. The courtroom was silent. Even Jabari's supporters looked shocked. The judge listened closely. After the lawyer finished, the judge looked directly at Jabari and said, "Sir, you broke her, but she built herself." Those words echoed in the room like thunder. Jabari sat quietly, realizing for the first time that his attempts to hurt Amahle only made her stronger. She wasn't just a victim. She was a warrior who had rebuilt her life from the ground up. Amahle smiled softly. This wasn't just a legal victory. It was a moment of truth, a message to anyone who tries to control or destroy another person. She had turned pain into power. She had taken every insult and every attempt to silence her and used them as fuel to rise higher. That courtroom wasn't just about money or reputation. It was about justice. The justice of a woman who refused to be broken, and the courage it took to stand tall and say, "I am more than your cruelty." In the end, Jabari lost the case, But Amahle won something much bigger: respect, freedom, and the final word on her own story. Netflix surprised everyone by releasing a documentary called Birthday Divorce, telling Amahle's story, the pain, the struggle, and the incredible rise from heartbreak to hope. Millions of people around the world watched it. They laughed, they cried, and they shared it with friends and family. It wasn't just a story about divorce. It was about strength, courage, and never giving up. The documentary showed Amahle's journey from that painful birthday in Mavula to building a business, inspiring women, and becoming a leader. Viewers saw her tears, her fights, and her victories. They saw the loneliness and the power behind her smile. It felt real, raw, and honest. In one scene, Amahle spoke directly to the camera, her voice steady, but full of feeling. "Thank you, Jabari. You didn't ruin me. You revealed me." It was a powerful moment, showing how what was meant to break her actually made her stronger and more visible to the world. Jabari watched the documentary too, but he watched it alone, in a small room, far away from the bright lights and applause Amahle now received. There were no friends, no supporters, just silence and regret. He saw the woman he once tried to destroy standing tall and proud, admired by millions. He saw the truth he couldn't deny. The last scene left everyone inspired. Amahle standing on a stage, surrounded by women who had found their voices because of her. Her story wasn't just hers anymore. It belonged to every woman who felt lost and found strength in the darkest times. The documentary didn't just tell a story, it changed lives. And for Amahle, it was proof that sometimes the hardest endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings. Jabari had tried to close her door, but instead, he opened a window for the whole world to see her shine. Amahle stood at the podium in Accra, the bright lights shining down on her as thousands of people filled the room. It was UN Women's Day, and she had been invited to speak, a huge honor for the woman who once felt invisible and broken. She looked out at the crowd, seeing faces full of hope, pain, and courage. Taking a deep breath, Amahle began, "Your worth isn't tied to a ring. Your value is not decided by anyone else, not by a husband, not by society, and certainly not by a divorce." The room grew quiet, hanging on every word. She spoke from the heart, sharing her journey from that lonely birthday when she was handed divorce papers to the strength she found in herself. She talked about pain, rejection, and the power of rising again. As she spoke, thousands of people rose to their feet, clapping and cheering. Tears filled some eyes, smiles lit up others. The girl who was discarded, forgotten, and told she was nothing had become a voice for millions of women around the world. Amahle's message was simple but powerful. You don't need anyone to complete you. You are already enough. Her story reminded everyone that strength can come from heartbreak, and that every woman has the power to rewrite her own story. That day in Accra, Amahle wasn't just a speaker. She was a symbol of hope, courage, and freedom. The girl who was once broken had become the woman who lifted millions, showing them how to stand tall and proud no matter what.